And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for dropping by. I'm just taking another look at another one of my favorite ZunTzu modules. The reason why I'm showing you the ZunTzu modules is just a lot of folks don't know too much about the ZunTzu game board. Vassal just seems to be the most popular. I've actually seen some other boards out there. There's one called Cyberboard. But like the Cyberboard, I didn't find that as intuitive to use. I figured it out on a lot of stuff that you can do with it. But for me, just for ease of simplicity of use, ZunTzu is my favorite, especially when you have a game that mixes cards and counters and a lot of cards. Combat Commander is a card-driven game through and through, and it actually has some really nice, simple tools for managing your game. Now, I'm not going to say this is better than the Vassal counterpart. It's just that for me, probably because I really started using the ZunTzu version first, it kind of set my expectations for when I try the Vassal version of Combat Commander that I prefer the ZunTzu method. Now, the thing is, though, the biggest difference between ZunTzu and Vassal, if this is your first time watching this series, is Vassal is just a hugely wonderful program for programming in automation, such as in Vassal, for some games, you could right-click on a counter on the board, and it would give you different options to, put it as spent or disrupted. You just right click and boop, choose its status, and there you go. It automatically applies a counter. Now, with ZunTzu, though, the drawback to this is pretty much just a graphics manipulation program. So, for example, if I've got, I'll just pull this German infantry squad. If it somehow becomes disrupted, I can't right click on it and choose a state. I'd have to actually, select it, go to the marker, and then find the actual suppressed one that I would have to pull out. Let's see here. Flip them over, or veteran. So that's the drawback. It's like I'd have to pick it, move it over to the map, and put it on. And now it's exactly like the board game. See, with Vassal, when you program in, you can change the size of the counters here as well. It's just that most of the time when I see games programmed into ZunTzu, they program the counter sheets over exactly as they appear in the game box, the physical game box. So they cover up and manipulate your counters just like in the real world. But like I've seen with Vassal, people really do kind of cater the sizes to what would make more sense. So sometimes you'll see a counter like, my favorite example is the Ghost Panzer or Screaming Eagles. When you get your suppression markers in the Vassal game, they're a little bit smaller, so when they're sitting on top of your counter, you can kind of still see some combat values instead of covering the whole unit. But when you do ZunTzu, I haven't really seen people, tailor the size of the counters exactly in that same way. So what you end up is your board looks just like it would on the actual tabletop, and so it's not necessarily optimized as you can get with Vassal. So not saying you can't do it, it's just I haven't really seen that. So now when I'm playing ZunTzu and I drag my counter over, it's just like I'm playing on the tabletop, and now my counter is covered up with the suppression status there. Well, so anyway, speaking of moving a stack in Combat Commander, it's just like in any other ZunTzu game, just grab the bottom of the stack and move it. Now, in this Combat Commander game, I'm not talking about necessarily the rules, just kind of the functionality of the game in ZunTzu. Normally, you don't have 3 squads stacked in a hex. So if you just wanted 2 squads to move, you can grab 2 out of the stack. If you have this stack and you want one particular counter to move, let's say you had a weapon in here, what you can do is double click the stack, and you can kind of, let's see if this will let me here. I guess it won't let me move the stack, but you can pick within there individual counters to pull them out and make a new stack. I can rotate a counter within a stack. So as long as I've double clicked the stack, I can actually rearrange the stack how I want, and then it reflects that down here on the actual tabletop. The reason why you want to double click your stack is just to get this side item over here. Otherwise, it's actually really difficult to rearrange things here on the main board. So double click is your friend when you're dealing with stacks. Because see, like if I try to move the rifle up, it just grabs the whole stack. So double click. The other cool thing about after you double click your stack, you can randomize. So if, for example, if I had, let's see, looks like all these suppressed are the same. I thought we had some more different types of damage. I guess just suppressed is the same. But for Combat Commander, maybe not the best example, but like if you had, this will work really good when we do Conflict of Heroes, because you can put all your infantry damage markers into a stack, make your active stack these here different damage counters that you would have, and then you could shuffle the stack and randomly pick, you know, one of these damage markers. Since suppressed is all the same, like I said, for Combat Commander, probably not the best example of shuffling. You know, victory conditions would work, because I know in the game at the beginning, one of the things you get to do is randomize your victory or your objective chits. See, so you could, for Combat Commander at least, I can now shuffle that selection, and then when people need to draw, let's see if you want to shuffle your secret objectives, you know. So that's pretty cool. I like that. The Vassal, you can shuffle things as well. I've seen programs where you actually have your cup and you drag stuff onto the cup, and then as you pull things out, it automatically randomizes what you pull out. I just kind of like that little visual appeal here that you get. Now with Combat Commander, you have cards, and you can still use that same trick with cards. There's times in Combat Commander where you need to shuffle the deck, so you just click on your stack, shuffle it up, and now I have a different card each time. Now, problem is, these cards are kind of hard to read here in the card stack, but it's real easy to zoom in to read your cards with Combat Commander. That was one thing I didn't like about Vassal so much. It's difficult to get that right zoom angle. Sometimes either things are zoomed in too much. I mean, you can go in and specifically pick a zoom level, but I do like the ability to just hold my right mouse button and then use the mouse to scroll up and down, and just, you know, I'm zoomed out if I want to get to a particular spot on the board, or zoom in to read my card in more detail. But that's just an example of, you know, just ease of moving stuff around and then shuffling. Now the cool thing is, because this is just like a tabletop, now they don't have a brown tabletop to look at here. This is just a black background. I'm going to look in to see if I can actually get a tabletop texture. But with the cards, you know, if you need a discard pile, let's say this is the card I use. I got my dice roll, dice right there in the corner. I just discard right there. I have a discard pile, and I can zoom in to look at it anytime I want. So that's kind of what I like. Here's the track, so you can keep track of your victory points, your combat totals. Everything you need here is already put into place for this particular scenario. The person who put this game box together, I didn't get their name. I downloaded this off of the ZunTzu.com website, and so it will have the author name. And I should have looked that up. I apologize, I didn't look up the author's name to give him good credit. But what he did was he's actually programmed in all the scenarios from the basic game, and he's put all the markers here in their starting values for things like the year, quality levels, the casualty tracks. He's pulled out some of the more commonly used markers and put them in stacks already, and he set the troops aside as well. Now this is not everything you need to play the game though, so that is one thing that would encourage you to purchase the game if you like the game mechanics, because the actual playbook that has the scenarios, and this is the first one, Fat Lipke, it would have its own special scenario setup rules where units are placed initially onto the board. But this is how I learned the game, and why I got hooked onto it was I played it just like this. I just made up my own scenario with the available forces and then walked through the rules on how to play. And that actually encouraged me to go and get it. I got Combat Commander Pacific and Europe, and I wish they had a ZunTzu module for Combat Commander Pacific, but they don't. Because sometimes I don't have the time to just pull and set up the map and physically drag out all the markers. I have a very short attention span, so usually by the time I get done setting up, that's about the time I'm ready to put it away and move on to something else. So with ZunTzu module, the reason I like this is because all I need to do is go grab my scenario book, possibly any play aids that I might want to have, and then boom, I am all set to play a game. I can start placing my troops, and then I can save my progress partway through, come back, and here's all my troop statuses. Now, with the zooming in, it's nice too because it's just easier to read off what's going on in a hex. I can just simply zoom in, look here at a stack if I need to. Like I said, double click a stack. I separated those, but if I had them together, of course it's making a liar out of me, but there we go, double click a stack. It's just easy to see everything you need. I love that ability to just smoothly zoom in and out. I have a great way to deal with the cards here. There's my discard pile, and when you get done looking at a card, or you can move it over here to the discard and then flip it to see the results of, you know, random events, your dice rolls. It's all very nice. And then the only problem is I haven't quite figured out how to flip an entire stack of cards. Like when you're done with your discard pile, I think, and this would be a drawback, I gotta flip every card individually. So if I had a really huge discard pile, I'm going to be double right clicking quite a bit to flip them over, but it works. But here's something else that's cool about card manipulation for Combat Commander. Now when you play solo in the physical game, you know, card management's kind of difficult. I got my Murphy table when I want to play, and I use the card holders from my Memoir 44 to hold the cards up. Or if I'm, you know, doing that single player, then sometimes I'll place the cards face down. I know some people play that way. The cards are face down for the, you know, virtual opponent, and you flip them over to see if they have anything that might interrupt movement. Well, in here they actually have a little show hand icon you can click on, and that brings up a spot where you can hold your cards. So now if I was playing, say, the Germans, I could go ahead and move some cards down here. Let's say your particular scenario setup says you get, you know, 4 cards. Let's just make up a number. Oops, I missed my deployment spot. And then as, you know, I can then flip my cards and keep those to look at. And what's nice is the hand will kind of disappear down to the bottom when you don't need it. So you get real good optimal viewing space. And that was one thing I liked about ZunTzu over Vassal. Vassal, I just have that huge chat box sitting at the very top, and you can kind of shrink it down, but I don't think you get as much real estate viewing space as you do in ZunTzu. So if I need my cards, I just hover down here, and if I need to, I can pin it in place so it always stays right there. But there's your card hand. But now if I want to bring down, say, my virtual opponent here for the Soviet player, I can then just stack the cards down here at the bottom. And then as you can see, the cards kind of start to overlap a little bit in the tray. So you can actually put quite a few cards down there. And then I can tell easily, here's my Russian cards. And then if I wanted to see, okay, I'm moving, I can just double click on it right here, and it pops up where I can view the card nicely so I can see if that has something I want to use. Like, oh, crossfire. I'm going to add that to my attack roll as I'm shooting at somebody here as an action. And then if that is my solitaire style of playing, I just flip it back over so I'm not looking at the card. Myself, I just leave them all up. That way I'm always looking to see what could be played as I do things, you know, or coming up. But that option is there. I mean, the other option too is you can just simply pull your cards out, leave them here on the table, you know, and then if you need to look at a card, you can just kind of zoom in to look at it. You know, that's the nice thing, is just that flexibility. But I really like the way they've got this card holder. And this will be for any module with cards. You can just stick the cards right down here at the bottom. Now, this ZunTzu module for Combat Commander also has in here the German counters. The cards are already taken out. Here's like the back of what they look like in the initiative card. Here's the Russian counters, so if you need to do, you know, your reinforcements or just something in general from, like, you know, a different scenario. What ZunTzu does is most folks, when they make the module, if they don't have the actual counter art in like a JPEG file, you can actually just scan your counter sheet into the game, front and back, and then you can just a few lines of code, you can put that counter sheet into the game. Then when you pull your counter off, like if I need this unit here, it's as if I just pulled it from the counter sheet. And then if I'm done with that counter and don't need it, I can delete it here from my counter table, and it goes right on back to the counter sheet. So that's what these grayed out or kind of darker looking boxes are. These are the units that have already been pulled out and are placed on the table here to use. Like here's some of the weapons and the troops. So I could delete all those and send them back to the counter sheet if I wanted to. So that's kind of neat. But that's one thing folks I think might like about Vassal. Vassal, when you have your unit box, you're not looking at the counter sheet. You have a nice little box where you can click on like German units, and then you can select the name that you want, and you can pull down an unlimited amount of that particular counter. Whereas here, I'm limited by what's been scanned in. But you can go in, if you want to reprogram the Vassal or the ZunTzu module, you can actually tell it how many counter sheets you want to have. So if I tell this I want 5 counter sheets of this, of the German troops, then I could pull this particular unit 5 times from the counter sheet before I would see that it's gone empty. So there is a way, I wouldn't call it cheating, but there is a way to just program in potentially more counters if that's what you want. But this is how it looks on the standard programming. Let's go back to the map here. So this is actually, I don't know, I just like the simplicity of the ZunTzu. There is no programming or anything fancy like that, the right clicking, and it is just moving little JPEG or PNG image files around. So it leaves a lot of the work to the players still. But I like it because that's what makes me feel like I'm still playing a board game even though it's on a computer medium. So, you know, that's a personal preference. There are a lot more games for Vassal, so there are those times where I'll have to get like Band of Brothers, you know, do Ghost Panzer, and I end up playing those on Vassal simply because I don't have a ZunTzu equivalent yet. But for those who are curious, it is actually easy to program in ZunTzu. I use the word programming, but really it's just rewriting some XML files. I have recently, like in my last one where we talked about Phantom Fury, I actually uploaded the Strike of the Sword module map. So just to show you, this is a very versatile program. I'm not good at programming languages. I'll just show you this because I was proud of this. I got inspired by the Strike of the Sword module. I was like, my goodness, I want to make my own game. So what I can do here is I put a game together that I'm working on called the Battle of Kursk. I know it has nothing to do with Combat Commander, but since you're watching this, I'll share it with you guys. I'm excited. And I borrowed the concept of taking like a real world map, breaking it down into sections, and you know, kind of an area impulse style of game with some obstacles here between the different zones. I'm not good with Photoshop or edit, so this is very rough. Once I actually have units and things on here and some rules, this will probably be an Eddie exclusive kind of game. But basically, right now this is on top of the Phantom Operation Phantom Fury. But just for an idea of size and how easy it is for folks to put stuff in. If I can do it, you can do it. So like once I actually get some tank units, they fit on here pretty well inside the unit or inside the different sections that I've made. So yeah, ZunTzu is probably easier for the computer programming not as inclined folks. Vassal, you can still put together a Vassal module that has what I've got here, but ZunTzu I think is probably just a little bit easier. So that's why I like it to play things like Combat Commander. It's easier to hop into, and then if I want to make my own changes to the game, it's just a simple lines of code, change out a couple things, add an image file, and boom, I've got my own game now. It's no longer Operation Phantom Fury. I'm now playing the Battle of Kursk here, which, I mean, I still got to get some units to make my own thing. I can't have my Abrams tanks running around the Battle of Kursk. But anyway, just to give you an idea of the flexibility of ZunTzu. All right, well, that's enough for now. If you have any questions about ZunTzu, or you want to see kind of what it's like to play through a game, just let me know. I am going to go back. Let's see. Oop. Conflict of Heroes is tomorrow. Combat Commander Europe. But just to end out with Combat Commander on here, though. But, if you do... Oh, yeah, let's see the scenarios here. He's got programmed all the scenarios right here. Open a scenario. All the basic scenarios are in here. But, yeah, just let me know if there's if you see like Phantom Fury or any of the other games I demo, if you want to watch and see what it's like to actually play a game and manipulate the pieces and roll dice. You don't roll dice for Combat Commander, but like Conflict of Heroes and other games like that. If you just want to see how a game would actually run through, let me know. Now, I'm going to say the biggest thing before I end this out completely, though, is if you ask about multiplayer, Vassal has the vastly superior multiplayer in the form of like the play by email. So you can just email a turn to somebody, the turn will play out, then you save your move and send it back. ZunTzu, to my knowledge, does not have that at all. You can set multiplayer, but it's kind of like a live at the same time. You got to be playing with somebody. So you would communicate over like your Skype or Ventrilo or something like that, and then you both. Now I've not played multiplayer, so I don't know how to do this, but you then would play real time. Let's see if there's a multiplayer here. Multiplayer. Host, so you can host it, and I guess there's a port, copy public address, put it on a clipboard, and I guess I would send my opponent the information I'm about to get here so that you could connect to my board that I'm playing. I just set up I don't know what it's doing. But for voice, also with Vassal, it does have the chat log. So when you type stuff in and dice rolls, you can scroll up and down in the chat. Well, here, I don't think it's going to let me because I'm trying to set up multiplayer. But if you just press the enter key, you can type a chat, and then it will display on the screen. But then it fades away after a few seconds. So I was going to hopefully demonstrate that. Maybe today was not the best time to show you multiplayer, because I've never done it before. I'm a solo kind of player. It's just chugging away. I was going to show you what it looks like to do a chat. Oh, yeah. So I broke it. I broke my ZunTzu. I just started clicking stuff I probably shouldn't have clicked. I broke my... Oh, that's why. I haven't installed apparently the correct files I need to run it. Anyway, multiplayer. I broke my multiplayer. Here, let's just come back real quick. I probably should have tested that out. I just thought of it. I was just like, oh, let's see what multiplayer looks like. So apparently there's some stuff you have to do to get multiplayer set up and running, which I haven't done yet. So I'll just pop back in and show you what chat looks like, and then boom, we're out for this episode of Combat Commander on ZunTzu. So if I were going to chat to my opponent and mock them, just press enter. This is a test message, and then it just appears right down here on the screen, and then after a few minutes that will disappear. So if you're not paying attention, you're going to miss out on stuff. Well, that's it. That's a Combat Commander in a nutshell on the ZunTzu. You can flip your counters, flip them back. I was going to say that was a nice thing I liked, is sometimes in Vassal, if you flip a counter, right-click it, choose the flip option, it might not let you flip back because that's not how it's programmed. So I've played games where I've had to delete the counter and then bring down a brand new counter to replace that one because I accidentally flipped it. But with Combat Commander, because it emulates the board game, you just flip it back. There's no automatic programming that you have to worry about. And that, I think we'll wrap it up. All right, thank you so much for listening. If you actually have some ZunTzu games or anything like that you enjoy, just let me know. I'll see if I can find it. The game boards are not the easiest to find. There's like Limey Yankee Games. They have a bunch of ZunTzu modules. Sometimes if you go to an actual manufacturer of a game, such as like GMT, sometimes they have some ZunTzu modules. Academy Games has a couple ZunTzu modules for Conflict of Heroes. I don't know if they have any for other games they have. And then if you go to like, you're just going to have to go and see who's got a ZunTzu module. ZunTzu.com actually has some modules. I downloaded from the Consim World Publications. They do have a ZunTzu module for the Hunters, their sub game, and it actually works really, really good. I just printed out like a log sheet and some other things that I needed, and the game also works in ZunTzu really well. So I'll probably be showing that in a few days as well. So thanks for dropping by, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.